Hi, everybody. We're just giving people some time to join, so we're going to take about 5 minutes. So we're anticipating a bigger crowd than we have already. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started. We have significantly more people logged in now. So hello, everybody. My name is Stephanie Davis, and I am the Senior Retirement Analyst with the Fairfax County Retirement Systems Office. Also presenting with me today is Coralie Taylor. She's from Chiron, which is the Retirement Systems Actuarial Consultant. So first off, thank you for joining us. We're really happy to have everyone here. I know this has been a much anticipated presentation, so just thank you for joining us. Today, we're specifically going to talk about the new amendment to the Employees Retirement Systems Ordinance, which will allow for outside service purchases. Everything today is going to be recorded, so if anyone misses it, give our staff a day or two and it'll be uploaded on our website. You can always reach out to us as well. So I'm going to kick off everything by walking through the details of the new ordinance provision, what it looks like for you all, any of the requirements, limitations that will be with it. We can answer any questions after that. And then Coralie is going to walk through some details on the cost calculation. So we have everybody muted right now. There is a question and answer area. So if you have a question during the process, you can feel free to put it in there after each section, then we'll go ahead and answer questions. Okay, so let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay. All right, so we're going to go over a few things today. Like I said, specifically, we're going to review what the new ordinance allows for this type of service purchase, who's eligible, how it works, how you can apply for it, things like that. So specifically, the ordinance already allows for several different types of service purchases. We allow active members to purchase within other plans that we have. So the URS system, PORS system, we have portability already, but this new provision will allow active ERS members the ability to purchase prior service outside of the county. So that includes prior military service and prior public service. So we're going to go over exactly what it looks like for you, again, what the limitations are, the requirements, how to apply, how you can pay for it, and then how you complete it and what it looks like for you. So we do have, so we're located off-site on Route 50. We're very close to the mall. You can always call us on the main number. I would recommend anybody that has questions after this, or if you specifically have questions about your situation, instead of like just broad questions, email us directly there. So it's RAA service purchases at fairfaxcounty.gov. If you type in service purchases at fairfaxcounty.gov, that will work as well. So again, this specific service purchase is going to allow any active employee of the ERS system the ability to purchase service that was outside of our county and outside of your period of work with us. So active duty military service outside of your time here and prior public service. So essentially, you're just going to be increasing the total service credit that you have. So it has a couple benefits. It will increase the monthly retirement benefit because it's going to add to your service years. And the big one that we find people enjoy is that it allows you to retire at an earlier date if you're not already eligible to retire. So we're going to start with the prior active duty military. Anybody that has 180 days or more of service is eligible to purchase time. The process to do that is pretty easy. You just have to submit your DD-214s or your NGB-22 and be honorably discharged. So you can purchase up to 48 months of service. One of the unique pieces of this amendment is that it allows members to purchase partial service. So our other purchases, you have to purchase all or nothing. You're allowed to purchase up to 48 months, but you can kind of tailor it to you. So if you only want 12 months of service, or if you only want 24 months, you're able to do that. Also fairly unique to this provision is that the service that you purchase does not count towards the 5-year vesting requirement. So anybody that purchases within that first 5 years, once you pay for the purchase, you will get credit for it, but it doesn't post to your account until after you've already met your 5-year vesting requirement. Also, the ordinance is specific that you have to purchase within 4 years. So once you've started the contract, you have to complete it within the 4-year time frame. You can't stretch it out any longer than that. For the prior public service, there are a few requirements. So you have to be a retirement compensable employee of the prior plan. So the ordinance specifically says that it has to be service that would have been retirement compensable under our plan had you been part of the county during that time frame. It also allows that you need to have been part of a defined benefit plan while you were under your prior plan. You'll have to submit verification of prior service credit. So this one is a little bit of an extra step compared to the prior active duty military. So you'll have to have your prior plan actually verify that you had service. Again, you have to complete this one within 4 years once you start it. It's also limited to 48 months. You are allowed to do partial service. It does not count towards vesting retirement either. The other thing with this one is that you have to be, it cannot be used in a prior plan's calculation of the other benefit. So in the state of Virginia, you can't get credit for the same period of time in multiple plans. So if you decide that you want to move forward with the purchase here, you're not able to carry that same time period in your prior plan. So one of the requirements for the verification is that your prior plan needs to certify that you are not eligible for a benefit and that you do not have retirement contributions in their plan for that period of time. So you don't actually have to take your contributions out right away. The first step will be actually requesting a calculation. We don't expect people to commit to it without knowing what the cost is. So you don't have to take the funds out right away, but you will have to if you decide to move forward with the purchase. Also, you can do a combination of both of these. So if you had a year of prior public service and you had 2 years of prior military service, you can do a combined total of those for up to 48 months. Same thing if you have prior public service in different jurisdictions, you can purchase different time as long as it doesn't exceed a total of 48 months. Okay, so the process, there's currently an application on our website right now. You can also email the RAA service purchases at fairfaxcounty.gov, and we're happy to send you the application. But essentially, you have to start by submitting an application for a request for the cost. It does not mean that you have to move forward with it. We just need to be able to track everybody who would like to purchase and then be able to verify their time. So for both types of purchase, it's the same application. Step 1 or section A is just your basic demographic information. You'll need to include information about the type of service you're wishing to purchase. If you are doing separate purchases, like military and public service, you'll need to give us more than one. And then you're going to certify that, yes, you understand the provisions of the ordinance and that what you're giving us information on is accurate. So if you are doing military, I mentioned this already, but you just need to include a copy of your DD 214 or your NGB 22. So that will show how much service you had. It'll show that you were honorably discharged. So we cannot accept orders for this. The ordinance is very specific that it has to be a DD 214 or an NGB 22. So for anyone only purchasing military, you just have to submit section 1 or page 1 of that form and then provide those additional documents. If you are looking to do public service, you may need to make sure that section B is completed. And so that's the verification of your service credit in the prior plan. That is something that you will need to reach out to your prior employer and they need to certify your service. So one of the things that you will do is tell us how many months you wish to purchase, and then you send it to your prior employer. You can send it to Human Resources, Employment Verification, Pension Administrator. Luckily, we have not had a lot of issues with people receiving that information back from the prior employers, but once you do receive that back, then you'll submit it to us. So we cannot move forward with a purchase of anything or calculation until we have that piece certified. So for anyone who is looking to purchase public service, like I said, that there is a portion where the prior plan has to certify if you have removed the funds. If your funds are still in the plan, we will still do a calculation for you so that you can see what the cost is. However, if you do want to move forward with it, you'll have to verify that you have removed the funds from that plan. And we can kind of go over the ways that you might do that. So once we receive that in, we just put it in the queue. We are expecting a large volume of requests. We went live with this 2 years ago with our public safety plans, which are significantly smaller than the ERS pool. And it was overwhelming the amount of requests that we had. So we're asking people to just be patient with us, give us 30 days to go ahead and give you the calculation. So we will send it to you in writing. We'll send you a cost letter and we'll send you a contract in case you decide to move forward with it. Once we calculate the cost for you, you have 60 days to decide if you want to move forward with it. So that gives you time to consider the cost, if it's worth it to you, to kind of go through how you might send the payments over. If you exceed the 60 days, that prior calculation is null and void. It doesn't mean that you can't purchase it again. It just means that we'll need to recalculate the cost. So you would need to submit an additional form to calculate. When we send you the cost, the process currently is to send you the cost for the maximum allowable months that you're able to purchase. So you have to purchase whole months of service, and you're able to purchase up to 48 months, but you're not required to purchase the entire portion. So once you receive the calculation, if you've received the cost for 48 months and you don't want to purchase all of it, there's a second step where you can let us know how many months you wish to purchase, and then we'll send you an updated contract with just that period of time. Okay, so if you have decided that you want to move forward with the purchase, there's several ways to pay for the cost. So the first is that you can just set up payroll deductions. So the ordinance again is specific that you have to complete the purchase within 4 years. So if you are a biweekly paid employee, that's over 104 pay periods. For our monthly paid employees, that's over 48 months. So those would be post-payroll or post-tax payroll deductions. We'll coordinate directly with Human Resources Payroll Department to get those taken out. If you do that, there is additional interest that is calculated through the duration of that loan time frame. So it's 6.75% is what our current rate is. If you decide to do a lump sum payment, you can pay for it all at one time. The nice thing there, again, is that we've locked in the rate for the first 60 days, so there's no additional interest if you do that. The downside is you're paying for it all at once. The taxability is based on how we receive the funds. So you could pay for this by personal check, in which case it would be post-tax funds. You can roll over from a qualified plan, or you can do a trustee-to-trustee transfer. So if the funds come to us as a pre-tax dollar amount, then it'll be allocated as such in your plan. The other option is to do an initial lump sum payment and then a payment plan. The benefit here is that you're reducing the initial costs for the payment. So hopefully the payments will not be as high. The only limitations that we have with our system is that you need to make a lump sum payment at the beginning or at the end to complete the contract. So you can't make lump sum payments throughout the process. It just has to be at the beginning or the end. So in order to get credit for the purchase, you have to finish the contract. So you're credited in full once you've completed it. So let's say you started with 48 months of service you want to purchase, you finalize the payment, you're immediately granted 48 months, assuming that you're already vested. So you would be credited with the full amount of the purchase service as of that date. So if you only needed 12 months to be eligible to retire, for example, you could purchase that today. As soon as it's paid off, you would immediately be granted 12 months of service, and then you'd be eligible to retire. If you don't complete the contract for any reason, if you separate employment, if you decide to move forward with retirement, or if you enter into drop, or if you just decide, I don't want to continue these payments and you stop the contract, you'll still be credited with the partial whole months of service. So you do have to have purchasing like full months. You can't do partial months there, but we'll give it to you as of that date. If there's any excess money that had been paid, then we would just refund or roll that over to you. So it doesn't count towards vesting, which we mentioned. It also doesn't count towards the final average salary. Your final average salary is your highest 3 years of consecutive salary history, just averaged into a monthly figure. So this purchase that you're doing doesn't act like sick leave, where pushes out that salary history, but it does give you additional service years. So your monthly benefit may be higher, or you might be eligible to retire sooner. So I realize this piece is pretty quick. I feel like people probably have questions though. So if you have anything you wanted to discuss, you can go ahead and put it in the question and answer here. Otherwise, I will kick it to Coralie.
Stephanie, there are questions. This is Amy Bain. I work with Stephanie, by the way, and there are questions in the chat.
Oh, I see them. Okay. Thank you. I wasn't seeing them before. So someone is asking if the years of purchase once completed count towards leave accrual rates. They do not. So you're purchasing service, retirement service credit. So this doesn't have an impact on your leave accrual rates with human resources. Someone is asking, can you explain the tax effect again? If writing a personal check, would that portion be post-tax for the monthly retirement benefit? Yes. So if we have received funds to pay for the cost of the purchase, it's allocated based on how the funds come in. So if it's a personal check, it's allocated in the plan that way. So once you retire, we'll use the simplified tax method. So a portion of your monthly benefit moving forward for life will be non-taxable. So you're not going to have to pay taxes again on that. So someone else is asking, what is the retirement compensable employee of prior plan? Must you be in a previous employee's retirement plan? For graduate assistant in school, if you did not take part in any retirement plan before, does this qualify for this? Okay, so there's two pieces that you have to satisfy in order to be able to purchase it. So it's available to any active member of our plan currently. Otherwise, it has to be service that would have been recognized within the county as a retirement compensable position. And your prior plan has to certify that you were in a retirement compensable position with them. So some of that will depend on your prior plan if you were retirement compensable. As a graduate assistant, we do have assistants in schools that are part of our plan, but if you did not contribute to the retirement system there, then you would not be eligible to purchase here. My recommendation for anybody, if you're in any way considering it, or if you're uncertain about it, you can always reach out to your prior plan. That's probably the easiest way to start, is to see if that prior service was retirement compensable. They'll be able to let you know if it was a merit position. Okay, the next question is, my prior federal agency was dismantled. Verification requests must now go through OPM and are likely to take months to get response. Would it be possible to get a preliminary calculation prior to getting the verification? No. It is a requirement that you have verified service in order to request the calculation. I will let you know. I'm not sure what the time frame is right now with OPM, but we generally get the verifications pretty quickly. So most of our members are able to get them within a few weeks. We do have a provision of the ordinance allows people, as long as you've submitted the request for service calculation prior to August 1st, then we're going to use your rate as of July 1. So in terms of your salary history. Unfortunately, if it takes your prior employer months to verify it, we can't do anything until we have that prior verification. The next question says, will payroll deductions require payment of interest? If so, would it be fixed or variable? Yeah, so if you decide to move into the payment plan, there is interest. It's 6.75% annual interest rate. It is not variable once you started. It continues. To be clear, though, you're not paying the county for your service. You're paying yourself. So the amount that you pay for this purchase, whether it's interest or the initial cost, that becomes part of your account balance. So eventually that money will be paid out to you as retirement benefits if you were to separate employment or decide not to retire with the county. Those funds remain here. So you could leave the funds in if you're already vested and get a benefit at a later date, or you could even take the funds out. So you're paying yourself for this service. Another question we had, if one is possibly buying back Fairfax County service and VRS service, should that be done in two separate applications? So Fairfax County service is not an outside service purchase. The ordinance already allows for service purchases for your county time. So if you had prior employee retirement service that you refunded, or if you already had service as police officer or the uniform plan, or if you were Fairfax County Public Schools under the Virginia retirement systems and ERFC, those are already service purchase options that are available. So that would be separate. VRS service could be a little different. We do have a provision already that allows for portability between the Virginia retirement system and ours. So there are some limitations with that sort of purchase. You have to be vested in your prior plan. You have to have left your contributions there, and you have to do that within the first 18 months here. So if you fall within that piece of it, we usually have you start with the portability. If those don't apply to you, so if you already took your money out of VRS, if you were not vested, or if you've just been here past that 18 months, that service would be eligible for outside service. So those sort of questions for anybody that's looking to purchase service, I usually recommend emailing Fairfax County, the service purchases email address, because we can help guide you into what sort of purchase you're looking for. The next question, do you accept DocuSign for signatures on the application? Yes, we do accept DocuSign signatures. You can also email, you can fax them, you can bring them by the office, you can mail it. Can you give us an idea on how much it will cost? Just a ballpark, please. So it is very specific to each individual. Corley is fantastic. She's going to go over how the cost is calculated. So I'm gonna leave that one up to her for her to do that. Next question. Can you talk about what kinds of service will qualify? Yeah, it looks like someone else has already answered this, but active duty military service, and then any prior service that was covered, would have been covered under our system if you were part of the county and was compensable under the prior plan. The next question is where to find these forms, DD 214 or NGB 22. So those are provided to you through the military or National Guard. Usually they're provided at the time that you honorably discharge. You can also request copies of them as well. That is not something that we can do for you though. So you'd have to have those copies for us when you submit it. Next question says, does complete service purchase within 4 years mean I must do so within 4 years of my start date working for the county? It's a good question. No, that doesn't mean that. You can initiate this purchase at any time. It just means that once you've started the contract, especially if you plan on doing this through payment plans, you have to complete it within 4 years. So that's 104 biweekly pay periods or 48 months if you're a monthly paid employee. So, and again, it's partial service. So if you have 48 months available and you only want to buy 12, you can do that. Once you've started that 12-month contract, you have 4 years to complete it. But at any time after that, you can go back and try and complete the other 36 months. So just because you started one portion of that service does not mean that you have to do all of it within that time frame. You just have to complete your one contract within that time frame. The next question, does retirement compensable mean we'd have to be vested in the prior public service retirement plan? No, you do not need to be vested in the prior plan. So this is unique also to the other portability that we have. So it just means that you have to have been contributing to the plan. So you have to be in a merit position. So you have to purchase within 4 years, but it wouldn't vest until you hit 5 years. would you get a refund if you leave before you vest? Yes, you would. You would definitely get a refund if you did that before then. Someone had said that the member credited with partial amount. You're only credited with a partial amount if you're already vested. So if you have not vested, then you wouldn't be getting the service. Is there a definition of prior public service? Yeah, so in the ordinance, it has the two provisions that I mentioned already. It also discusses the definition of county. So one of the requirements, the first one is it has to have been considered retirement compensable in the county. That also allows for state and federal. So anything that would have been within the United States. Had another question about leave accruals, just in case someone is coming in late. The purchase of service does not help towards leave accruals. It's only retirement service that you're purchasing. Someone else said they were not seeing what was being presented, so I would recommend that you go onto the website and check out the beginning part of it, because everything will be recorded and then provided on the website. Someone else is asking how it affects employees who are enrolled in FCERS. So this amendment only impacts FCERS members specifically. So any active employee of the ERS system is eligible to purchase. I think I've hit everything. Amy, are you seeing any other questions?
Yes, because the way the Q&A work, if you have to refresh it, so hit Q&A and close it and open it again, because there's quite a few more that have come in.
Okay, would Peace Corps service count? I did not contribute to the federal retirement plan, but it would be compensable under federal retirement if service purchased. So I would reach out to me directly on that one. Send me an email so I can understand your question better. Someone asked what website we have. Our website is fairfaxcounty.gov/retirement. So it's on one of the first slides, I think, or at the end here. Does the time purchase go towards longevity? No, it does not. Only retirement service credit that you're receiving. Another person is asking about their prior service, where they pulled out their prior county retirement. They said that when they came back, Plan B was no longer an option, and now they're in Plan B. Is it possible to get back into Plan B? No, it is not. So that's kind of off topic. That's a different type of purchase, but no, if you do not have service in the county already, whenever you're hired, whether you had prior refunded service or not, you're put into the current plan offering. And so this sort of purchase does not change that ordinance. Can payment be made in one lump sum rather than biweekly? Yes, it can. You can do a lump sum, you can do biweekly, or you can do a combination of both. Also asking for an estimate, that's not something that we provide just randomly. So Coralie will go over a lot of how it's calculated, but you'd need to submit an estimate request. Also, like I said, if you're in any way, shape, or form considering the idea of purchasing it, I would say go ahead and request a calculation. It does not mean that you have to move forward with it. The longer you wait to request a calculation, the higher the cost is. So it does benefit you to do it sooner rather than later. Another question, is VRS 1 year of service equal to 1 year of Fairfax County retirement service, or is it less? I believe that is a question that relates a little bit to portability. So this is a separate provision than that. If you are purchasing 1 year of outside service credit, you get 1 year of Fairfax County retirement service credit. Another question, does working as a contractor for Fairfax County count as a prior public service that can be redeemed? So again, it has to be count for both of these pieces. You have to have been covered under or been able to be covered under Fairfax County, and it has to be compensable from your prior plan. So in your case, a contractor, that position is not generally retirement compensable. Can you provide the application here now in case there are questions related to completing it that you could answer on this call? It is on our website. So I also went over some of the basics of the how you fill the application out. It is pretty simple, but if anyone has any questions, I would say just reach out to us directly. Next question, is this available to employees that have only worked for Fairfax County and nowhere else? So you would have to have prior employment in order to purchase it. So it has to be service that was retirement compensable somewhere else. So if you do not have any service elsewhere that was retirement compensable, you cannot just purchase years of service just for the sake of purchasing years of service. Another question, does Fairfax County Public Schools count as a prior public service? Fairfax County Public Schools is a different type of purchase that's covered in our ordinance. So that is a buy-in calculation, which is actually a little more cost effective for the members. So it is eligible to purchase, but that would be something that you would have to reach out to RAA service purchases also so that we can calculate that. It's just a different type of purchase. What if we retire from the military? That's okay. So the only service that had to have been removed from the prior plan is prior public service. You do not have to do that with your military service. So you are able to provide us with a DD 214, even if it's that service that you're getting credit for as a retiree. Someone else says, what exactly do you need from the other county or HR county government to say? Example, a letter stating your service. No, we don't require a letter. There's a section on the second page of the application to request. So you'll start off by saying who the prior employer was, how many whole months of service you had, and then the prior county will certify that service. And I will say it's not completely out of left field. These are things that we also do fairly frequently on the county side. So I think that's why it hasn't been very difficult for most members to get this. So you should be able to get it from your prior employer to certify that time. Someone's saying, if I paid through the 457 plan, is the interest still 6.75% or T. Rowe's interest rate? So if you are paying through the 457, generally that is through a rollover. So as a rollover, there's no additional interest. The calculation itself, which Coralie will review, does have interest already factored into it, but there's no additional interest if you're doing a rollover. Yes, someone's asking if it's recorded. Yes, it is. You will find the recording on our website within a day or two. Someone is asking if the service purchase is available if you are in drop. It is not available. You have to be an active employee. Once you've entered into drop, you are no longer technically active under the retirement systems. Would the Virginia retirement system years of service count that was earned 15 to 20 years ago? As long as it's service that was retirement compensable under that plan and would be counted towards us, then yes, you could purchase it. You would just be required to remove the funds from the Virginia retirement system in order to do that. Okay, I'm getting several questions about the type of service that you can purchase for public service. So hopefully people will be able to read or listen to the recording or reach out to us directly. Yeah, a lot of these are very specific questions. So if you have questions about your specific prior public service, generally I would say reach out to us directly if you have questions, but also you need to reach out to your prior plan because they can certify whether or not it was retirement compensable. It does limited term with Fairfax County Court count towards public service or a seasonal employee. It does not. That is one I know for certain because it would not have been eligible from your prior employer, which is us. I'm reading through these. A lot of them are a lot of the same questions. Yeah. Someone says, is it expected that we will be paying what we would have contributed if the years were traditionally accrued, or a combination of our burden and the employee's burden? So it is an actuarial cost. So the member is paying for the entire cost of the service, which Coralie will go over much more eloquently than I can. Someone's asking, will this reduce my prior service retirement annuity? So if your prior service that you're wishing to purchase is already considered in a calculation somewhere else, it's not eligible for purchase. You cannot receive credit for the same period of time for public service. Military is different. You do not need to be vested from the prior employer. Does the purchase service years count towards determining your pension amount? Yes, it does. Does not impact the final average salary, though. Someone is asking about the impact of portability. I would suggest just reach out to us directly, and we can kind of explain how that difference is. This class specifically is just for the new amendment. Also, Amy and Kim offer training and classes frequently, and they review a lot of this as well. But you're always welcome to reach out to the service purchases email. Okay. If you're eligible for a pension through the other public entity, are you forfeiting that pension if you purchase service credit? Yeah, so generally, if you are removing your funds from a prior plan, and it's a defined benefit, you're removing the time associated with it, which means you're not going to be receiving a pension in the future for that. Is it only for previous VRS employers, or can it be from an out-of-state retirement system? Yes, it can be from anywhere in the United States as long as it qualifies under those two provision plan. There is no average monthly payment. It's very specific. Sick leave is not really impacted through this. So I would say that seems more like a specific question to your retirement versus this sort of purchase. So I would recommend you reach out to your retirement analyst. How does this get submitted? Directly to you or through the library HR or to the supervisor? You'll submit it directly to the retirement systems office. So you can, again, you can email it to the email address we've given you, you can mail it, you can bring it by the office, or you can fax it. If you bring it by the office, though, we do not do them when you drop it off. They're put in the queue, so we'll do them in the order they're received. Someone is asking when the last date we can submit a request. Is there a limited window during which we can take advantage of this program? There is not a limited window. It's now a provision of the ordinance, so you can submit a request at any time. It does generally become more expensive the longer you wait. Yes, we can put up the contact information before we leave. Amy, I think I'm caught up. Do you see anything else I've missed?
Checking.
Thanks.
Yeah, yes, they're coming in. I think that 12, and I think you scheduled this for an hour. Is that correct?
Yeah. So I would say that a lot of the questions are about cost, if it's eligible for them. As long as Coralie is still available, I think we should switch over to her, because I think when she goes over a lot of this, it'll make more sense. Agreed?
I agree, and I think that any individual personal questions can go to the RAO service purchases at fairfaxcounty.gov because they will be handled, personally, and you'll be able to get that information that way.
Yeah. All right, Coralie, I'm going to switch myself off and hand it over to you.
Do you want me to share my screen or are you going to share my slides?
I believe Kim has the slides.
I can share.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, can someone just write in the chat that they can see the slides up on the main screen?
They're up poorly.
Okay, got it. Thumbs up. Thank you very much. Okay, so I'm going to be going over the calculations, going into detail into the very simple calculation of how to do all of this work. So on the next slide, there's two types of service purchases that you can do as a member of the employee's retirement system. One type applies when an employee transfers from one system in Fairfax County to another. And in these cases, the retirement system has already set aside money to cover the pension benefit earned for that service. So because of that, the employee only actually needs to pay the member contributions that would have been made during that time. The other type of service purchase is for service that's worked outside of the Fairfax systems, which is the case for portable service from VRS, as well as this new service option for public and or military service. And it requires payment of the entire increase in the liability. And that's because the system has a policy that the unfunded liability can't be any better or worse than before the purchase was made. So that is why the entire cost has to be made up by the participant. Next slide. I think Stephanie had already gone through this. But I will, for those that kind of joined late, I will say that the service purchase, you're allowed to purchase up to 48 months or 4 years of service. And that service is going to apply to two items. It's going to apply to your eligibility to receive a retirement benefit. And it's also going to apply to the benefit itself. It will increase the years of service for the determination of the benefit. All right, next slide. When we make a determination of the cost of this benefit that you would have to pay, we have to make a number of assumptions. We have to, the calculation has to be done today so that you can make the payments, but we don't actually know for sure what you're going to be paid out in the future, but we make a number of assumptions for that. So we assume that you're going to retire at your earliest eligibility, and we assume that you will receive 2.25% pay increases per year for the remainder of your career. And then we also have to calculate this present value of this future benefit that you're going to receive. And we do that using assumptions that have been adopted by the board, which includes an assumption of investment returns of 6.75%. And then mortality tables and the cost of living adjustment also adopted by the board. So those are all the big assumptions that go into these calculations. All right, next slide. The very simplified steps on how to perform this calculation. So what we're doing when we determine this cost is we're saying, well, what would your benefit be if you purchased no service and you just continued in your career, you retired at first eligibility? And then we say, well, and then what's your benefit going to be if you purchase the 4 full years of military service? And we project out your benefit, we project out your service, we project out your salary, calculate your benefit, and discount it all the way back to today. And that's going to be the difference between the two amounts is going to be the cost of this service purchase. I'm not looking at Q&A. I guess I should, so that we can answer questions as we go. Okay, we're good for now, I think, unless I'm missing something. If someone can speak up.
I will, Coralie, I'll answer some of them that aren't related to this while you're going. So I'll let you know if anything pops up.
Thank you. Okay, so next slide, we're going to walk through a sample calculation for our participant. We are assuming this participant is in Plan D, and we are assuming that they are newly hired. They're age 30 when they're hired, and their base salary is $100,000 in their starting year. So next slide is a whole bunch of calculations, and I'll try to walk through this so that you understand. Hopefully you can see it. This is kind of small on my screen, but that's okay. Okay, so as I said before, we look at the cost, whether you purchase service and when you don't purchase service. So this participant starts off as age 30. They don't have any service in the system. So we're assuming that they're going to retire at their rule of 85 date, which would be 57 and a half. That's their age, and with service of 27 and a half years. Projecting out their salary at retirement for the 27 and a half years, 100,000 to their retirement age will get them to about 184,000 as their salary. We convert that to a final average salary and then determine their base benefit. It's just slightly over 102,000 a year. And then we do the same thing for the supplement. You can see that the supplement in this case would be 51,000. And then we multiply each of these benefits by their associated present value factor to come up with a present value today at their hire of just under 300,000 without a purchase. The next column there is, well, what happens if they purchase 4 years of service? And it actually means that they're going to be eligible to retire 2 years earlier because they do meet that rule of 85 at 55 and a half now. They've got an additional 2 years of service going into their retirement benefit. So they are able to retire 2 years earlier. What does this mean? It means that they actually have less, their salary at retirement is a little bit lower because they've got 2 years fewer increases. But the projected base benefit does come out a little bit higher at 104,000. So you've got the base benefit, you've got the supplemental benefit, and the present value with the additional 4 years of military service is assumed to be 372,000. So we take the difference between the 372,000, the 299,000, and the cost of purchase for this participant who is newly hired is going to be about 72,500. As a percent of their starting salary, that is 73% of their starting salary. So this is someone newly hired, doesn't have any prior service in the system currently. Any questions on that before I move on? I know it's a lot and it's a lot of numbers, and if you're not a numbers person, it's probably incredibly confusing. We good?
You're good.
Okay.
Oh, someone
All right.
said in the example, how is the present value factor for base benefit calculated?
I will go through that a few slides from now, so I will answer that question in a moment. Okay, so next slide here is, well, what happens if someone's already into their career a little bit or near the end of their career, they're right at retirement age. So that's what we've got here. The yellow section there is someone that's 10 years into their career. And you can see that the retirement age, the service at retirement, the salary at retirement, the final average salary, and the projected base benefit is identical to the case where someone is newly hired. There's no difference there. Where the difference comes in is the present value factors, and you can see that they're quite a bit higher. Gosh, almost double what the newly hired participant had as their present value factor. And Stephanie had mentioned in her presentation that if you want to make a decision on this, make it early, because the longer you wait, the more expensive it's going to be because you're getting closer to retirement. So in this situation, the cost of service purchase is almost double. It's 140,000. And as a percentage of the salary at the time of purchase, it's 112% of their salary. Yeah, loved the face there. Thank you. And then I saw a question there about someone that was right at retirement age. So this last column there in green is someone that has already met their retirement eligibility. So purchasing the additional service is not actually going to change their retirement age, and make it earlier to meet their rule of 85 retirement age. But it does increase their service at retirement. So they get a full 4 years of additional service. So what does that mean? It means that their base benefit, their supplemental benefits are now larger than they would have been without the purchase. The present value factors under either scenario or with the purchase, without the purchase, are identical. But they're already retirement eligible, so that benefit balloons, and you get a cost of purchase of $263,000 in this case, 143% of salary at their calculation age. So you can see that it really gets expensive when you're later in your career. Just checking real quick for questions before I move on.
Someone said, is the 2.25% up to the max of the current position salary? I have to imagine. So that's because we have caps based on our grades. So you can't earn over a certain percentage.
The 2.25%, yes, it's 2.25%.
They're asking if it's up to the max of the current position salary. I don't think that applies personally, but because you're
This
using
was
those
just an
factors based
example.
on. Okay.
It assumed a starting salary at higher of 100,000. So it doesn't take into account any of the grids that kind of come into play for the system. Very simplified example for this purpose. Okay, next slide is just a quick summary of what you see at the different ages. The cost does increase as you get older and closer to retirement. Similarly, present value factors increase as you get closer to retirement. The payment is earlier with the service purchase if you have not met the retirement eligibility yet. If you have, you're not going to see a change in the payment. Okay, so next slide is looking at these present value factors for the question that I saw there on present value factors. So as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, they are developed using the system's assumptions that have been adopted by the board about mortality, interest, and cost of living assumptions. And what they do is look at the value of a payment of $1 per year commencing on the retirement date. So we're saying, okay, when you're eligible to retire, you're going to receive $1 in the first year. And then the next year, we're going to say, okay, your benefit's going to increase by COLA, but you also have a probability that you're going to die in that year, probability the mortality. And then in the following year, same thing. You get an additional year of COLA assumed. There's another year of potential mortality. And so we take this entire stream of payments and we discount it all the way back to the date of the calculation. So nice and simple, right? So looking on the next slide to try to make it a little bit more easy to understand, we're looking at the value of a bank account and we're asking the question, how much money do you need to put in today so that you have the amount needed for retirement at the end of your career? So at 30 years of age, you deposit an amount of money and it takes 27 and a half years to grow. But if you're 40 and you're already partway through your career, the deposit has 10 fewer years to grow. So you actually need to put in more money to be able to get that amount out at a retirement. So the difference in the service purchase cost is due to the distance from the anticipated retirement age. Yeah, the earlier you put the money in, the longer it has time to grow. And then I saw a question earlier during Stephanie's presentation on just a ballpark cost. So for Plan D, I put together the attached, next slide, the attached graph that shows as a percent of salary the cost to purchase this service. So if you only want to purchase 1 year of service, 12 months, the green line there will show you the cost by the number of years of service that you currently have. 2 years is in red, then teal, yeah, I guess that's teal. And for 3 years, and then the ultimate, if you buy the full maximum amount of service that you're eligible to buy of 48 months, it's that dark blue bar at the very top there. So you can see that early in your career, if you're newly hired, the cost is under 100% of salary, and then it kind of balloons as you get closer to retirement age. So again, this is just an example for someone that's in Plan D, and it will change based on your all of the data that goes into your specific case. So I would encourage you to reach out to Stephanie for an estimate for your specific situation. I think that might be it, unless there's any questions. That's it for me.
There was one question. Is the pre-SSB benefit relevant for this calculation? It is considered as part of the calculation. Great.
Yeah, in this specific
I don't think not the
situation.
example specifically, but in general, if someone is eligible for a pre-Social Security benefit, is it considered in the calculation?
Yes, yes.
The other questions are pretty specific to members, so
Okay.
unless Amy, if you see anything.
No, I would say that, this is Amy, by the way, I would say that, to check the FAQ document on our website, if you haven't had your question answered. If it's not there and it's a very personal question, then send it to the RAA Service Purchases at fairfaxcounty.gov email address. If you're thinking about, yes, maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't, fill out the application. That application is online on our website. The direct link to the page was included with this email. And we can put that into the chat as well. But for anybody wondering, you might as well ask for it. It makes more work for the office here, Stephanie. But you need to have the right answers. You need to know all the answers before you make a decision. And for those of you who joined late or weren't sure, or had to leave early, which hopefully you're here for now. If more is going on, you can review the recording, because this recording will be on our website as well.
So I shared the application in the chat. Also, a few questions kind of touched on this. It's just an application for information. You do not have to actually move forward with anything by submitting that to us. It doesn't mean you're officially deciding to do it. There's a contract that you would have to sign if you decided to move forward with it. So like Amy said, just request it if you're in any way, shape, or form considering it, because it'll just get more expensive. I kicked myself off.
Jennifer, the chat was disconnected and the only questions that came through were in the Q&A.
Can you hear me, Amy?
I can hear.
Oh, good. Okay. I think I'm just going to go ahead and close out the chat. Most of the questions now have either been answered already or they're just very specific to the member. So reach out to us, shoot us an email at raa servicepurchases@fairfaxcounty.gov. And then everything will be sent to everyone who had enrolled in Employee U afterwards. Okay. Thank you, everybody.